It's a political smackdown as last year's winning vice president is taken on by a councilwoman from Pawnee. That is unless the voice of her generation can strip out a win or a dramatic breakdown doesn't break down the competition. There's also a reliable Emmy magnet trying to draw in another, and a modern comedy icon trying to take her final bow on Emmy's stage. It's lead actress in a comedy series brought to you by Gold Derby. This year's fight for the Emmy for Best Lead Actress in a Comedy Series can be best defined as a struggle between light and dark, where we see these funny comedic performances going toe-to-toe with some pretty heavy dramatic stuff. And let's start off by talking about the comedies, because they're a lot more fun in some ways. And we have last year's winner and probably the front-runner for the award this year, Julia Louis-Dreyfus from Veep. Returning as Selena Myers, the Vice President. We know she's loved in the industry. She was able to win a couple of years ago for The New Adventures of Old Christine when not many people were predicting it. And she was able to win for her iconic performance as Elaine from Seinfeld in the 90s. She's just so beloved and so iconic. She starts off in a really great position here to reclaim that prize. She submitted an episode to judges called Running, where she gets to show off these comedic chops by running into a glass wall and having to give a press conference with band-aids all over her face and getting high on painkillers, something else Emmy voters sometimes like to reward. Plus, there's a little bit of the sensitive side of her where she has to decide whether she wants to stand for vice president again. So it's a really well-rounded, funny performance from Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who's won last year and well-respected. The thing that could hurt her is that she did win last year. It's been a long time since the same performance has won twice in this category. And is it perhaps just a little understated, the style of Veep? Does it not pack the fireworks or the memorable moment that we may get in some of the other tapes? Tom O'Neill and myself got a chance to talk to Julia Louis-Dreyfus about the state of this race, and here's what she had to say.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Julia. You have won 3 Emmys over the course of your career for 3 different roles, which is sort of quite rare for an actor to win for different roles. What is, and there's so many different roles, what did it mean to win for Selena Myers on Veep compared to Elaine and compared to New Christine?
God. What did it mean? Well, I mean, it's always just a lovely feeling to win, and it is of course a validation, but at the same time going into it, you don't want to give too much weight to it for fear of losing. Did I just sign out? Do you guys still hear me?
No, you're still on. You're still on. And I want you to run with that idea for a second, because you've actually lost like 140 million times.
Yeah, I've lost more, certainly more than I've won. So odds are I'm going to lose. So you have to go in sort of with your hopes pretty much repressed, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And I know everyone always asks you, what's it like to win an Emmy, but what's it like to lose an Emmy? What's it like to sit there and go through that whole
Well, I'll tell you something. It's always disappointing. I mean, and then of course the trick is to not look disappointed. So that's really when you get to see some major league acting chops. Not just from me, but from everybody who loses in all categories. It's always interesting to watch those faces for a quarter of a second, that look crossing the face, and then the smile comes back on, because you're on camera and you have to behave in a dignified and respectful way. But everybody is masking their disappointment.
I love it when Alan Alda lost his first one for The West Wing, and it cut to him and he was ripping up his acceptance speech.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Let's keep going with some of these more comedic light performances here. And the overdue candidate, and this might put her in a good position, is Amy Poehler from Parks and Recreation. Nominated 5 times for playing Leslie Knope, still coming up empty-handed with Emmys. And I think she's in a great position because she submitted a really good tape. It's a 2-parter. It's the first half is very funny, her dealing with emergency response in Pawnee, trying to get out of it, trying to do everything she can to get out of this situation with her regular gusto and humour. And then the second half, we see her get married to Ben. It's a really sweet moment, and unlike Julia's tape, makes it seem like a special episode of Parks and Recreation. Going against Amy, though, is the fact that Parks and Recreation seems in all other regards to have fallen off the Emmy map. And that might mean that this show doesn't strike a chord with the voters in the Academy. We've also seen her never be able to win this, and also Steve Carell, who in some ways played a similar type of character in a similar type of show, failed to take out that Emmy Award. It's a tough field, though, and she's put herself in a great position with her submission. Now, the person who hosted the Golden Globes with Amy Poehler this year was Tina Fey, who was nominated alongside her for 30 Rock. Unlike Amy, Tina has been able to win the Emmy for 30 Rock before as Liz Lemon, and she's put herself in a good position too by submitting the series final of 30 Rock. In some ways, there may have not been seen as a great need to reward Tina Fey again, but this reminds people, this is her last episode of the show. She's got a nice moment where she says goodbye to Tracy and a nice moment where she says goodbye to Jack. It's probably not the showiest or funniest or emotional performance submitted here, but it does remind Emmy voters, if you want Liz Lemon to win one more Emmy, this is your chance. Perhaps the negative for her is that 30 Rock hasn't won an Emmy in the past 3 years. It's got lots of nominations but hasn't been able to win. Perhaps that's sort of past its point of winning. And there's no massive big comedic scene for her here. It's really trading on the fact of nostalgia getting her over the line. And the Emmys historically have not been that nostalgic. They didn't give Steve Carell his Emmy for his final. They didn't give Martin Sheen an Emmy for his final of The West Wing. So they're not the most nostalgic bunch, the Emmys. Now, a performance that maybe mixes comedy and drama the most here is Lena Dunham from Girls, because we see it's a dramatic performance. She gets mad at her friend, she shouts at her friend, but she also gets high on coke, and that leads to at least a performance with a lot of energy and quite memorable. That could definitely be able to appeal maybe to voters who think Girls is usually a bit too dark, a little too dramatic to win. This is at least the fun coke scene for Lena Dunham here, and I think she's in a good position because she's cool. Girls is in the comedy series race again. Lena Dunham's looking like she could be the kind of person Emmys would want to give it to. However, going against her is her character is quite annoying, is quite self-righteous. I don't think it fits with the Academy demos and the types of Academy members that would be voting for her. Even the fact that she uses coke could be a bit too edgy for some Academy members. And it seems like the buzz for Girls has died down since it was actually airing. And, you know, maybe it's not feel like, oh, we have to vote for her because she's cool anymore. Well, Daniel and Tom O'Neill got to speak with Lena Dunham about the Emmys this year. Let's hear what she had to say.
4 nominations for just yourself last year for Girls, and the show was nominated for Best Comedy. Did you have any expectations about how it would do in the second season with the Emmy nominations? Were you eagerly or anxiously anticipating it?
You know, I think I had a feeling where I was like, well, that happened once and it was incredible, and let's hope that the people who responded to the first season respond to the second, because it would be sad if the people who had been so supportive of the first totally gave up on the second. But that being said, like, still that morning there was the same fiendish excitement when we woke up and found out we were nominated that there had been the first year. And I don't think we went in feeling at all jaded to the process. We knew that there are a ton of new shows on the air, a ton of great shows, and it's very easy to get bumped right out of that slot, and there's no given, so we were very excited when it happened.
Now, the Emmy episode that you chose to give to the judges for the lead actress race, I think, is an excellent choice. It's Bad Friend. It shows you strung out on coke. It shows you joyous. It shows you despondent. It shows you pining for love. And this is really a great showcase for Hannah, isn't it? In all her OCD, romantic, literary aspiration kookiness, right?
Thank you. I hoped so. You know, it's hard to know because on this show specifically, some episodes are not really even comedies at all, and so it's hard to know what exactly accurately represents the journey of the character. So this was the episode in the season that I thought sort of was in some way the most schizophrenic and showed all of the different complex areas that she hits on, but in one fell swoop. And, you never know if people feel like watching you on cocaine for half an hour, but I was very grateful that they responded the way they did.
Let me squeeze in one more question before tossing it to Daniel here, and that is, who is crazier? Is Lena Dunham crazier than Hannah, or the other way around?
Well, that's interesting you ask. I used to be like Hannah, 100%. She's crazier. She's the one who has these insane boyfriends and these insane relationships with her friends and can't seem to get it together professionally. But then sometimes when it's like, my 16th hour on set and, I've had to leave my dog at daycare and my mom's called me 11 times and I can't answer because I'm covered in fake sweat doing some strange sex scene, I think I'm crazier because sort of the attempt to write, direct, act in, produce a show is so oddly, singularly, both selfish and backbreaking that I go, what kind of nut job would think that this was like a life to choose for herself? And I'm also a really bad hypochondriac.
Now let's cross over to the dark side of this category, where we have, well, let's start with Edie Falco. She's won 3 times for The Sopranos. She won once for Nurse Jackie already for the first season. She's been nominated every year since. They clearly love and have a lot of respect for her. She's always gives a great performance in Nurse Jackie. The tape she submitted, she's going through divorce, which some people might empathise with. She's got some dramatic chops. She's got a few little comedic chops that will help her out a little. However, the thing that hurts her, I think, the most is that I'm not sure if this tape rises above the crop, and the fact she hasn't been able to win since season 1 means maybe they've moved past it, but we'll find out on Emmy night. The dramatic performance that stands maybe a better chance of causing a stir and a bit of an upset on Emmy night is Laura Dern, who just has a complete breakdown in her tape. It's a dramatic tour de force. It definitely stands out amongst the competition, and I can see people ticking that off and voting for it. Going against it, though, is it's not funny at all. It's the only tape where you don't laugh once at anything she does. It's so dramatic, and I guess the big Laura Dern question is, are voters wanting to embrace a performance in a comedy category that is so dramatic? We've seen Edie Falco, Toni Collette, and others win for dramatic performances in this show. Even Helen Hunt's submissions back in the 90s when she kept on winning were quite dramatically skewed. However, in recent years, we have seen a bit of a trend towards the more comedic performances. Melissa McCarthy upsetting. On the comedy lead actor side, John Cryer upsetting. We're seeing a bit of a shift to more comedic. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, when she won for The New Adventures of Old Christine over weightier stuff from Lisa Kudrow and Jane Kaczmarek. So we've got a really interesting question here. Will they embrace the dramatic performance like they have in the past here, or will they embrace the comedic performances like they have in the past here? Daniel Montgomery got a chance to speak with Laura Dern about her performance in Enlightened, and hopefully that will enlighten us a little.
Even though you didn't get to continue the story on for another year, are you happy with the story you got a chance to tell over those 2 seasons?
Very happy. I mean, I'm elated to have been part of telling the story and playing Amy. And, it's definitely a bittersweet celebration because, I think we would have loved to have done one more season. And I think that was sort of already imagined, the 3rd season. So that always makes it trickier. But at the same time, I couldn't be more thrilled that we got to explore it and ultimately make the show that we all really wanted to make.
Amy is passionate about making the world a better place, but she's not saintly. She has moments of being, sometimes self-involved or a little pushy. Do you think of her ultimately as more of a heroic character?
I do, but I'm unbelievably biased. So, I've kind of grown to love everybody I've played, even people who are just impossible. But I do find her heroic. I think using your voice, despite what other people think, she gets it right some of the time. And some of the time when she does, it is in her mind and probably likely for the common good, and that's a beautiful thing. And ultimately, as we see at the end of the season, she does affect change in people who we would have written off.
there you have it, lead actress in a comedy series in a nutshell. But if you want to watch the extended interviews with these Emmy contenders, if you want to lodge your own predictions, if you want to watch more detailed discussions and debates about these categories, or pipe into the debates in our forums, please go to goldderby.com where you can do all of those things. Thanks.